I don't have the need to cover certain content unless it's absolutely relevant, and especially a specific content creator. But leave it to good old little Ben Shapiro to make the triumphant return of Nick Fuentes to revolutionary change. Here we go.
Once again, that there's a difference between people who are asking legitimate questions, which we should always ask about any foreign intervention or any military conflict, and the people who openly root for America's enemies.
You see, little Ben, we don't root for America's enemies. We root for America's liberation, which right now appears to be coming in the form of the Iranian regime. And as we know, this is actually a world war now because they are not doing this all on their own. They have the backing of some of the most powerful nations on earth outside of us. You know, Israel really only has us, and they do have Argentina. We'll get to that shortly. China is involved. China is helping Iran. So is North Korea, and so is Russia. This was a fight that we didn't need, but we decided to take it on because of little Ben Shapiros of the world that get out there and push this Hasbara narrative that we must fight them. I don't know about you guys, but I think we can do away with the likes of little Ben. In fact, I'm not going to pull up the tweet, but I'm going to just let you guys know that the person who likely cost me my job, Laura Looney Loomer, she put out a tweet just a little while ago saying we might as well eviscerate the entire country of Iran in order to get back our one fallen soldier, which again means that everyone is guilty, everyone is dehumanized, and the chosen people perspective reigns supreme over our State Department. And here's little Ben defending what's going on right now. And yes, he did trim his eyebrows. He got the memo. Or maybe it was just that time of the month and he didn't get a chance to shave it. Maybe his private parts is actually on his head. I mean, we all know he's, you know, a weenie or a pussy. Maybe he has one. And in this case, he trimmed it. So he's not done.
People who are saying we ought to cede global power to China, Russia, and Iran. The people who pretend to be America first, and the way they mean America first is, what if we are just fans of the mullahs? Well, here's Nick Fuentes doing that routine, yet literally saying that he is praying for the mullahs yesterday.
The one thing I can appreciate about Loomer is that if you thought Trump had no filter, that freak show truly has no filter. So when you think about the acceleration of where we're headed at this point, when it comes to the end of the Zio state's stranglehold over our nation, all you have to do is just read Loomer's daily ramblings of a crazy person, and you'll understand why. There are plenty of references that you can use, but little Ben is a little bit, no pun intended, more measured than Looney Loomer is. Loomer just throws it right out there. Kill them all. Let God sort them out, am I right? And of course, she said this over Easter weekend, because why wouldn't she? And again, this is where, when you understand why somebody like Nick Fuentes becomes a voice of reason, it's because of people like that.
Pray for Iran. Pray for the designs of the Jews to fail. That's all we could do. Iran is fighting for the whole world right now. And don't get me wrong, I'm not praying for more casualties. I want that to stop. I want the United States to be finished. But Iran right now is fighting for all of humanity. They really are.
And this is the problem that we run into in politics, where somebody will say it's the right message to the wrong messenger, but this is where the embracing of the Fed Fuentes becomes a problem. Because when he's scoring off of you, you are in big trouble. Now, the big problem that we have with the Zio scum is that they are not having any moments of reflection. They are not even tempering their self-destruction even a little bit. No, what they're doing is going into rapid decline, and they're going to pull us all down with them. That's why if you saw the clip that we dropped a little while ago, if there ever was a time to call for Trump's removal, this is it, because now it is painfully obvious that, much like was to the detriment of all of us when things really got started back in October of 23, we already had a demented president in the White House who was being controlled by a complete Hasbro agent, the real President Blinken, as I called him. And that was just the tip of the iceberg. Remember, liberals sell empire much better than conservatives do. You flip it around and you just put a whole bunch of lunatics into these positions. Now you could see it for all it's worth. And so here we are in a situation with another demented president who kind of has his finger on the button and could easily do something to more or less end humanity. But if Fed Fuentes is going to say what needs to be said, and it's going to rally his millions of people to continue to push up against the Zio scum, like Shapiro and Loomer, we're going to take anything we could get right now, because this is a very dangerous time. And this again gets back to the whole collapse of empire. People betting on whether or not American troops will be killed. That's pretty messed up.
In a way, they're fighting for us. Because if Iran falls, it means Israel controls the entire Middle East.
Okay, well, again, if you are so brain poisoned, if you are so brain poisoned that you are now in the position of arguing in favor of the Iranian regime.
Oh, little Ben Shapiro.
Think it's better than me, Paul? You think you're hanging there all day, you're higher than me, you're better than me? Yeah, well, I gotta miss you. You're not. I'm a father. I can think that you are not better than me at all. Yeah, I'll teach you.
Let me tell you, that thing really smashed him good in the nose. It's not like little Ben had a big schnoz to begin with. I mean, you know, it would take two of his to equal one Laura Loomer's. But the point is, you are listening to a very rational statement from Fed Fuentes. And the first thing that Ben decides to do is chastise him for that message, claim that, oh, that speed bag definitely is. Speedball, don't be taking those speedballs, guys. That's pretty dangerous. Speed bag. Speedball is a whole other story. But this is, again, the danger. To mock somebody talking about why is it that we are in support of what Iran is doing. Again, lay all the cards out on the table pretty clearly as far as I can see. The cards are pretty obvious that we don't want the American soldiers to be hurt. They didn't ask for this. Most of them don't want to be there. Imagine that just about all of them don't want to be there. But here we are in a situation where Iran is only scratching the surface of what they're capable of doing. And in the haste of a madman who is still in control of power, being completely blackmailed and run over roughshod by this Zio state that, on the one hand, thinks that they are going to complete some insane greater Israel project, of which it's certifiable at this point that they think that this is possible. However, they're going to take a hell of a lot of people with them. And Benny, not of the Jets, makes this statement, effectively proving Nick's point. That's what he's doing. So to say that Benny is not quick on the uptake would be an understatement, but we'll finish it out.
Which is responsible for the death of hundreds, if not thousands, of Americans, the spread of terror all over the globe, threatening Europe with ballistic missiles, and development of nuclear weapons because you hate Jews that much. Let me just suggest that your problem isn't really the Jews. Your problem is something well beyond that, which is hatred of the civilization that grants you your rights.
Okay, I want you to listen carefully one more time to what this dumb shit had to say.
Threatening Europe with ballistic missiles and development of nuclear weapons because you hate Jews that much. Let me just suggest that your problem isn't really the Jews. Your problem is something well beyond that, which is hatred of the civilization that grants you your rights.
So it always gets back to the same stupid tropey stereotypes, because why not? It's always the Jews. You hate Jews. That's the reason. Although with Fuentes, again, he's one of several that refer to them as the Jews and not the Zionist Jews. Again, nuanced language is very important here. However, the idea that he thinks that the reason we don't want this is because we want to see the end of civilization. This is, again, the level of psychosis that makes no sense. It just doesn't. Iran doesn't attack anybody. We've been trying to go after Iran for the longest time, but as I've pointed out, Iran is one of, I believe, 4 legitimate nations around the world that doesn't have a Rothschild's bank. And I think that's a pretty big deal. I'm not saying it's the only reason, but it's definitely a big one. And so this should not come as any surprise. So this is, again, why when sometimes it's not even a question of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. That's really not what this is. It's, are you firmly against the decimation and destruction of our own country? If you are in favor of Israel, then you are in favor of the death and destruction of our country. And everybody needs to be treated as such. Benny just happens to be one of the more recognizable faces, but there's a lot of them out there. Big time. And now it's being reported that it could be anywhere from 750 to up to 1,000 dead American soldiers out there already. They're doing a hell of a job hiding this. I don't know how that's possible. But you know, one thing that I think we'll probably run into when we're on Capitol Hill, I am willing to bet that there's probably going to be a lot of military families or military family members that will be there, that will be begging for answers about why they haven't heard from their child in weeks.